Um, all right, and let me start the audio recording also. All right, that looks good. And recording the other side. All right. Can you say something?
Yes. Hi. Hello.
Hello. Excellent. Excellent. All right. Here we go. Welcome to Between the Rackets. I'm your Karen. And my guest for this episode is Matthew Schell. He's an IT project management who's currently developing a MediaWiki-based wiki farm, currently located at goalstriving.org. That's GOALSTRIVING.org. And we're also recording this via video because Matthew will be doing some screen sharing so you can see the resulting video on YouTube. Matthew, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
First of all, where are you located?
I'm in New York City. Lived here for about 15 years now.
Fantastic. Used to live there. What is your background? First of all, are you an IT person? Are you a programmer? Something else in IT?
So I've been in IT for about 25 years now, and I've worked a variety of different roles. Started out doing server administration on Windows servers, then moved into network infrastructure. For about 10 years, my primary focus was on information security. I deployed a lot of security products as well as performed security assessments, penetration testing. For most of my career, I've been working with consulting companies or integration companies, sometimes called value-added resellers. And so I would move from project to project. Most of them lasted between a couple weeks to a couple months. And so I have experience working in over 200 different organizations. That really gave me a breadth of experience that has really been valuable. And then in 2011, I got an MBA and then joined Accenture and worked in their IT strategy group. So worked with Fortune 500 companies on their IT strategy. And then after doing that for a few years, I went the opposite direction and started to work for a startup. And so throughout my career, I've never worked as a programmer, but I've tinkered with programming quite a bit. I've built a few web apps that were primarily just for me to be helpful in the things that I was working on. But then when I was with the startup, I found myself writing code almost every day. A lot of JavaScript. The app we were designing was in React and Node.js with a MySQL backend, and became fairly proficient over time in that. And since I had the background of server administration, security, network infrastructure, I found I was able to work on projects and kind of create something from start to finish. I could build a server in AWS or another hosting provider, set up the operating system, set up the web server, database server, and then write the code and be able to go start to finish with a working product. And found it was really empowering. It was enjoyable, and right away I started seeing so many opportunities for I could develop an app that'll do this. I could use this technology to do this, and I just have a list of projects that I would love to work on one day. And this wiki farm idea had been on my radar for quite a while. And it was always something that had been in the back of my mind. But I have two nephews that one of them's graduating high school just this week, and he'll be starting college soon. And then my other nephew 2 years behind him. And I remember from when I was in school, all the notes I took, papers I wrote, assignments I completed, and none of that was captured in any kind of digital note-taking tool. And so, a lot of it just got thrown out. So I wanted to have a platform that my nephews could use throughout their education and then would remain with them even afterwards, that they could reference for the rest of their lives. And then I've personally been using MediaWiki as a personal note-taking tool. And I started using it about 6 years ago, I think. And I use it for things like anytime I'm learning something new, I'm taking notes on it. I find that, if I'm learning a new technology or a piece of software, um, if I don't use it regularly, I'm just going to forget a lot of the details about it. But if I take some notes and have links to some other, supporting resources, that could really make it a lot easier when I go back and need to use that again a year later. And so been using that for note taking. Anytime I read a book or an article, if it's something I want to remember, I'll take notes on it. Sometimes even listening to podcasts, I'll take notes. And then for other things like planning a vacation, I have lists of a bucket list of vacations I'd like to take one day. I have some notes on, movies that I'd like to see, or some movies that I want to rewatch, or notes about household chores, products that I've purchased, notes on how to use them, or warranty info, anything that I need to remember. And I have a nice organized system, and I find myself throughout my day, both at home and at work, I have at least one MediaWiki page open at a time, and I'm adding notes constantly throughout my day. And so I have hundreds of pages in my personal MediaWiki system, and anytime I start a new project, I create a wiki for that. And so for those watching on the video, you can see this is the wiki that I've been using to document all my ideas related to this wiki farm project.
Yeah, right. How did you end up? I mean, there's any number of software for note taking, including some wiki software for note taking. How did you end up deciding on MediaWiki for your own use?
So I have been using Microsoft OneNote for about 10 years. And OneNote is structured where you can organize content into notebooks, and then they have sections, and then they have pages. So it's like a 3-tiered hierarchy. But I'd heard about wikis and how they were great for document management, and I could definitely see the value in having, being able to create links between things, and instead of being a strict hierarchy, being more of a web of information. And I've used Wikipedia extensively through, ever since it began. And the thing I love about Wikipedia so much is it's just how quick it is. I mean, you click on a link and it opens in 1 or 2 seconds. But if you compare that to other document management systems like Microsoft SharePoint, where it could easily take 15, 20 seconds to find and open a page. And usually if there's some kind of 20-second delay while I'm waiting, I'm going to go over to my email and check something while I'm waiting for that to load, and then that turns into a 30-minute distraction. So with Wikipedia, I can stay focused. Edits are really easy, or with MediaWiki. So I looked at Confluence, I looked at Notion, at Obsidian, and those were all great products. But for me, MediaWiki was the clear winner because I could control the whole platform. I wasn't relying on a commercial vendor. I could back it up. I had access to the data, and then I really like the formatting of it. I like the fact that it's fairly limited. It allows you to create headers and bullets and numbered lists and some basic tables. But I find myself, I don't spend a lot of time formatting. Whereas if I'm creating a Word document, it seems like half the time I'm spending tweaking the formatting to get it look the way I want it to look. Whereas in the wiki, I'm either writing a paragraph or a list, or grouping things into headers. And so the organization is really intuitive. And yeah, that's why I found it to be best.
Yeah. Did you look at a software like well, there's some dedicated wiki note-taking software like TiddlyWiki. I'm sure there are others.
No, I haven't heard of that one. Didn't try that one out.
Okay, yeah. I mean, in some cases, I think that they just run on your laptop or something. So
yeah, Obsidian can do that.
Okay, yeah. Well, right. So the downside there, I suppose, is that you can't access it from your phone or different locations, that sort of
Very
thing.
true.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. I mean, yeah, hundreds of yeah. I think about that. So much information. I mean, there's just our lives can be like just a constant stream of information and data and so forth, and it can very easily get lost.
Yeah, even something like, I see something and I'm like, oh, that might make a good birthday gift for this person,
Right.
right down there, because I'm not going to remember it 6 months later when their birthday is going to run.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's at what point did you decide, well, this has worked out for me. I want to turn this sort of thing into a resource that that other people can benefit from also.
Well, just a couple months ago, I've been thinking about trying to get a wiki system for my nephews, and as I started to build that, I was thinking, maybe I could, let's see how far I could get trying to work on the wiki farm idea now. And at first, I was using VS Code with the Codex extension to help me with some of the specifics and the mechanics of it, and that was working out okay. But then I'd heard about Cursor, and so then I installed Cursor, and that's kind of like a fork of VS Code that's more native AI and has multiple agents built in, and it can kind of see an entire project a bit better. And I started asking Cursor, describing this is what I wanted to do. And right away, it started giving me, you can go in either plan mode or agent mode. And in plan mode, it just gives you a detailed outline of what needs to be done. And then you can switch to agent mode and it'll start actually updating the files for you. But, I tried it with a few little things and say, okay, now I want to do this. And then it does that and it tests it all out. And I'm like, wow, it all worked. And then I just started doing bigger and bigger asks. I'd like to integrate with this with Google authentication so that I don't have to manage user passwords. People can just use their Google accounts and set up the pages. And then I wanted to automatically create the wiki as soon as someone logs in or signs up for the very first time. And I was able to get every one of those things working. And so I was like, all right, well, I pretty much have the wiki farm idea here. Let's go ahead and launch this now, and my nephews can use this, and then they can tell their friends to use it.
Yeah, so it already works. I mean, that you can already get, what is it? How does it work? Like people get a subdomain of
Exactly.
of
So
goldstriving.org. Okay.
so I set up like a proof of concept, and I'm using the domain goldstriving.org. I registered that a few years ago thinking it was a cool sounding name because, if you're striving to achieve goals, I set a lot of goals for myself, short-term, medium-term, long-term goals, obviously tracking them in the wiki. And as as I'm working toward those, I'm striving toward my goals. I'm goal striving, and a wiki is a great tool to work on reaching your goals because you can organize things and categorize things. So that's the domain I'm using, but I've thought of a few other ideas that we'll talk about in a minute. But I set it up with just a single server at this point. So it's running on an AWS EC2, running Linux and MySQL and MediaWiki on there. And then I figure once within a couple months, I'd like to, now that I've kind of gotten the proof of concept, hopefully when this podcast launches, there hasn't been anyone else to create any other wikis on here. I'd love to get some additional users all you have to do is go to goldstriving.org. You'll see the link to enter in your credentials or your email address. Right now, it's set up to only work with Google. Eventually, I could probably set it up to work with Microsoft. I might even set it up so that you can create a local account. But it seems like most people, their personal email is either in a Google or Microsoft account. So that will probably suffice for most people. And then, as soon as you create the account, then it asks you, what would you like the wiki to be? I made mine Matt, M-A-T-T. And so I have matt@goalstriving.org. It automatically creates the subdomain for you.
Yeah. Okay. Neat. And is it free? What's the business model here?
So I thought about a couple different options, but for something like this, I think a free model is going to work best. And then I thought about what would it take to, we could survive on donations from, and we could even think of it as a community, because I wanted to. One of the features I'd like to add eventually is a sharing component, so that I can share pages from my wiki with other users. For example, if I'm planning a vacation, I'm been going through that for the past couple of months. I'm actually leaving on vacation tomorrow to go to Europe with my brother and his family, including my nephews. And we've been planning this vacation, and I was thinking, man, it would be so. And I have my wiki pages that have all my notes on the hotels and the travel arrangements and attractions and things we want to do. And it would be so nice if I could share that with them. So I would like to be able to do that eventually, but for now, it's just each wiki is kind of isolated. We'll add the sharing components in the future.
Yeah. So I mean, once someone creates a wiki, they can of course put in any kind of information they want. How do you distinguish these wikis from just a general wiki farm? Is it well, first of all, I guess I should ask you, is every wiki private by default? Is it always
yes, everything will be private by default.
Okay.
And I assume for most people, the majority of what they do will be private. For college students, all their notes, maybe if they want to form a study group, they could share some pages, but the majority would be private. In fact, they could probably even set up something, I could even envision one day, a university professor might set up a shared wiki for the course, and students could join and the professor could join, and the students could even share their work with the professor. And then the nice thing about the version history in MediaWiki is that as they're working on a paper, for example, they might start out with a couple random notes and add notes over time, and then they organize that into lists and an outline, and then they start writing paragraphs, and then it evolves into a complete paper. And so, if there's ever any question in the future, if the professor says, I'm concerned that this might not be your own work, you could just show the version history from that page, and you would have it all the way back to the very first time it was created.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah.
But a couple other things, you asked about the business model and the organization structure, and I started to answer that, and then we got sidetracked. But to go back to that, as a nonprofit, I think it could survive because I asked ChatGPT, if I wanted to scale to say 1,000 users or 10,000 or 100,000, if I was using an architecture within AWS that used AWS RDS for the database and had Kubernetes for the application and web server and had all the images stored in S3, what would be the costs if this scaled up to 1,000 or 10,000 users? And I said, how much would each user need to donate per month if I assume only 10% of the users actually donated? And I think at 10,000 users, it was like $2 a month. And then at 100,000 users, it was like $1 a month, with only 10% of the community donating. And I thought that seems really sustainable to me. That seems like the kind of thing that could really take off and could scale infinitely. And there would be opportunities for grants as a nonprofit. Google, AWS, Microsoft all offer grants for discounted or free services. And then, even the Wikimedia Foundation has grants. And then there's plenty of other organizations that, if we promote it as a knowledge sharing and knowledge development tool that's free for everyone, there would be a lot of opportunities for fundraising. But then you also asked about, what kind of differentiates this from a traditional wiki farm. And one of the other features that I'd like to have would be kind of like templates that will, and I know the term template is already used by MediaWiki to mean something specific. So we'll probably call them like page sets, where they might be either a single page or a set of pages that have kind of a set of headers that give you a template. So you're not starting with a blank page. So for example, if you, I track, these are a list of books that I might like to read in the future. And then this is also a list of books that I have read and some notes on each one. And so we could have a template for that. And then for each one, we can probably have a structured version and an unstructured version. So we're using Cargo, we could, so that you could put in the title, the author, category, publication date, of the book, so that you could have all your books in structured content. And then that would allow, we could have a shared library. We could have ratings on books. And then I thought each user could add contacts or connections, you could call them. So if I connect to another user in the wiki community, and then I could, share with them, this is my reading list, or share with them, notes that I have on a book, or, we could have page sets related to different hobbies like photography or other things that people are interested in. And then they could create a shared page set that they could view. You could either share something as read only or share it as read write to make it a collaboration between you.
Yeah, pretty neat. What you referred to as templates, I usually call packages, even though that too has overloaded meanings. But yeah, that's how there's a extension called Page Exchange that lets you define them and install others groups of pages. So they're called packages.
And maybe even third parties could develop these. Like far in the future, I could even see something. Wouldn't it be nice if like Netflix had could send me an API feed into a page set that had my list of all the shows that I've watched, because that would be nice to have, to be able to browse through, to be able to reference from time to time. And it seems like there could be a lot of opportunities for that. If this became a community that was widely used among a lot of people, then companies might be interested in providing content in a format that could be, since the wikis use a standardized format and can be received via an API using the external data connector, it seems really plausible. Like it wouldn't take a lot of customization to make that happen.
The fact that everything's private puts some hamper on that. As far as creating a community and then getting buy-in from outside companies and so forth. There's lots of ways to go about that sort of thing. It's such a powerful idea, having a single place to put all your notes, as opposed to a million places, and one that's digital and searchable and so forth.
One of the common things that I use it for is information related to healthcare and finance. So like anytime I visit a doctor or other healthcare professional, I take notes related to that. Anytime I get sick, I'm documenting the symptoms, the diagnosis, the treatment, the outcome. And so, however, because of, privacy and regulatory requirements, most likely we'll recommend to our users to not include information related to financial accounts or health information at first. But then if this grows and people start using it, then we could certainly hire third-party auditors to come in and perform necessary audits in order for us to be confident enough in the system to feel comfortable that we can tell people that they can start to store that sensitive information.
Okay, that's interesting. I remember I used to go running and record all of my runs, because that's what I'd read you're supposed to do. It was great to have. I have no idea where all that. I wrote it down. I have no idea where all that information is now.
Yeah, and like personal fitness trackers that people are using more and more, Fitbit and Garmin, they make that data available via an API. And it seems plausible that I could set up a feed to have it automatically going into my personal wiki so that I could browse through all that data.
Yeah. Yeah. What about does your work life ever bleed into it? Like you find yourself writing stuff related to work in your personal notes, and then or do you have a separate place for the actual work stuff?
Well, for things like a job search, a wiki is an ideal place to keep track of all the different places I've applied for, have links to the original job description, and notes related to how I customized my resume when I submitted it to them. I have a copy of the cover letter right there. So if ever my phone rings and someone calls me about an opportunity, I can quickly click to it and see right away what we're talking about. And then things related to career development, training, excellent place to keep all those notes together. And then, sure, related to the job I'm currently in. And I think just about every project I've been on for the past couple of years, one of the first questions I have is, what tool do you use for knowledge sharing? Because, once you've used a effective knowledge sharing tool in a group on a project, then moving to a project that doesn't have that, it seems like, oh my gosh, how am I going to survive? And standing up a MediaWiki server, I've certainly probably built at least a dozen of them. They're pretty quick and they require very little day-to-day administration.
That's very interesting. So you've been at companies, organizations, and so forth, where you've just created a wiki and said, please use this from now on.
Yeah, so one example, about 2 years ago, I was working on a project where we were upgrading the phone system to an IP telephony system at about 100 different locations. And we started off, we had a spreadsheet with the addresses of all the locations, the technical point of contact, some information about how many phones they had. And then we were in the process of gathering information like, what do they currently use for their phone system? What are they currently use for their network infrastructure? Does the network infrastructure support what we need for IP telephony? Is their current phone system under a contract that we need to wait until that contract's up for renewal before we can look at switching to a new system? And so I built a wiki. I put all the location information into a table in a MySQL database, and then I used the external data extension to pull all that data. I created some templates for each location that included an info box with all the relevant detail right there. And then I also used the maps extension so we could see all the locations on the map. And when I showed it to my colleagues, I'm like, here, so each location has a page. There's the info box that shows you, there's the technical point of contact, the address, and then I have headers on each wiki page for info about their infrastructure, about their current phone system. And then as the project deployment begins, there's a section for each stage of the deployment project. And it was an incredibly valuable tool. And then we ended up even building another wiki that became public facing. So it included tutorials, instructions, tutorial videos for the end users, and then support information, and then use information for how users can access support.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, the fact that they saw immediate benefits from a wiki for something for information that's so central to their business is amazing.
Yeah, many organizations are nervous when you mention open source software. Partly because it's unsupported, and partly because they say, well, how can it be secure if it's open source? But I found, it's easier to first build it like a proof of concept, build the wiki, start to show how it can be used, because I think people who haven't used a wiki for knowledge management before, it's hard to explain how useful it is. I find as I use MediaWiki more and more each day, I'm thinking about other ways that I could use this. Say, oh, wouldn't it be nice if it had this feature? Or, oh, I could also use it to track this kind of information. It's just such a versatile tool, and so it's so easy to use.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such an interesting, well, I guess we're getting sidetracked by the corporate stuff, but it's such an interesting, sort of a catch-22 for anyone who does MediaWiki consulting. Is the companies who would most benefit from wikis, and MediaWiki specifically haven't even considered the idea or have dismissed it for various reasons. The idea of a wiki, unless you go in and demonstrate it to them directly. Do you have any thoughts on that, on sort of bridging that knowledge gap that people have about the benefits of a wiki?
I'd say I learned the hard way that you don't want to even suggest it until you have something that you can show, until you can present something, because if you say the word open source and they say no way, trying to reopen that door is really, really difficult. But if you say, hey, here's this tool, take a look at how we can use this, and then then of course they're going to say, oh, how much does this cost? And then you say, well, that's the best part. It's free. It's open source, and I'm running it on this server, and we can store everything on a server that we own. We're not reliant on any commercial vendor. We control the entire product. And, by the way, MediaWiki is used by thousands of different organizations. Here are some of the other organizations that use it already. And then you're much more likely to get buy-in.
Gosh, yeah, okay. It's unfortunate that, I mean, the apprehension about open source feels like something from 30 years ago. Evidently, a lot of people still have it. I mean, the idea that open source software would be less secure.
Yeah. I mean, I would make the argument it's the opposite. The fact that it's open source, it makes it so easy for people to identify vulnerabilities. And because identifying, like I mentioned, I've done vulnerability assessments, and you can kind of look at it from two sides. You can look at it from the penetration side, where you're trying to send packets to a system to attack it in some way, or from the internal side, looking at the source code, looking at the configurations, and you can see, oh, here's an opportunity for a buffer overflow right here. And then with open source software, you can test it from both sides easily. You can look at the code, and you can build a pilot environment and run intrusion tests against it.
Yeah, and of course, just the track record with proprietary software like Windows is sort of speaks for itself. Well, okay. So yeah, that's interesting. I guess what you're saying is it's best the best way to get MediaWiki into a system is to just be hired to do something else, really, I suppose, and the easiest way, and to introduce that as a tool to get the whatever the other thing is done.
Yeah, it could be a tool that you bring on as part of one project to say, well, we're going to use MediaWiki just for this small instance, and then as people use it more and more, they start seeing more ideas, they become more comfortable with it, and the usage could expand to other areas. For storing policies and procedures, it's fantastic. Being able to update a procedure, and then anyone who uses that procedure can track the page, so they're notified if there's an update. Having the version history, that's often a big concern. As soon as you say, oh yeah, everybody can edit every page, the management is usually like, well, wait, we don't want that. But as soon as you show the version history, and you could say, look, this change was made on this date, and then you talk about your current system. Do you have any version control there? Well, no, we don't. Okay, well, then this system does have a lot of benefits. And by allowing anyone to be able to edit, that's why Wikipedia became so popular so quickly, because anyone could edit to things, and the community would be in charge of ensuring that there's accuracy to it. And within our organization, the version history gives you all the accountability you need going back to the very first edit.
Yeah. Well, one interesting innovation, I suppose, is not quite an innovation, but one thing that you're focusing on, especially with this wiki farm, is the idea of fully unstructured data. Like, you just have a thought, you create a new page, and just put it in without worrying about how it fits in with the overall structure. Have you advocated or directly done that sort of thing for corporate clients as well? Like, is there that sort of that you recommend that same sort of approach?
Yeah, so I find that I always tell people, don't worry about making it look great or worrying about how it's organized when you first put the information in there. Just get the information in, and then as you use it, organization will start to become apparent. Now, it's often tempting to, if you want to create a page, just type in the page title in the search bar, and then it'll come up and see you click the link to create the page. But what you've done at that point is you've created an orphaned page where there's no link to that page anywhere. So what I always like to do is, maybe on the main page of the wiki, there'll be, a bulleted list there of, pages that need to be categorized. And you just add a page there to that list, people can see it. And then, just seeing that list, you'll start to say, oh, well, these three can be grouped together into this, and then we can fit that into our overall hierarchy this way. And, I spend, it's like, you go back and forth between adding notes, adding content, and organizing and structuring. And one often leads to the other, because one of the terms, so one of the names that I've thought about for this organization is a knowledge garden, or garden of knowledge, because I kind of think of it like, when you first create a page and put in some notes, you're like planting the seed of this knowledge. I never think of any wiki page as being completed. It's just, the state of a page is where it's at today. Tomorrow I'm going to add some more notes. There'll be a little bit more detail, and then I'll start to put these into a list, and right away I'll see, oh, if I have this, this, and this, obviously I'm missing this, so let's put that in there. Even if I don't have any detail yet, at least I'll put it as a placeholder in this outline. And then you can also, I'll paste a section of notes into ChatGPT and say, what am I missing here? Or how can I elaborate on this? And look at the ideas that it has and incorporate some of that. And then as you start to build headers, MediaWiki automatically builds the outline for you, and so you can see the outline at the top. And again, it's just identifying gaps, deciding where you want to add details, and let things grow organically. I mean, this list here, that I'm sharing on the left, this was just, a bulleted list of 3 items at first. And I was like, oh, I'll add this, I'll add this. Oh, I'll change this to numbers. Oh, these two can be combined together. And, and so thinking of it like a garden of knowledge is a nice analogy, because I'm just cultivating this information. And, what it looks like today probably won't be what it looks like tomorrow, because things evolve, and that's great.
Yeah. So when in your personal note-taking use, when you have does it make sense that the structure sort of grows organically? Do you once you have a certain number of pages that are shared elements of a specific class, I guess you could say they're all sort of tied in together. Are you then tempted to create an info box for it and categories and all that kind of stuff?
Exactly, and that's where I think that the page sets can be useful, having a structured outline, and we can even have, like, some of them, depending on the level of detail, like if you're interested in photography, maybe it'll start out as being a one-page template that has a couple headers on different sections. But then, if you're more interested in it, and we might have another page that's a multi-page where it has individual pages for equipment and lighting and software and effects that you can do, and so and then and then by having some structured content around that, it makes sharing and collaborating a lot easier.
Sure. Yeah. Do you use forms at all?
Yeah, I've used page forms, and for adding structured content, absolutely essential.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Well, then now there are multiple extensions for both data entry and data structuring. But no, that's great. That you're making use of page forms. Yeah. What? Well, I guess this is somewhat technical, but yeah, do you end up creating like a hierarchy of categories, that sort of thing? Do you stay away from that whole that whole complication?
Well, hierarchies just kind of seem to form on their own. Like I have a technology page, and then within there I have different software. Like I've created a couple tutorial videos, and at first I was using Apple iMovie, and I had all my notes on how to use that, and then I started using DaVinci, and that took a little bit more of a learning curve. I watched a couple YouTube tutorials, took some notes on them, and then built a couple projects and had all my notes there. And then, if I go 6 months and don't use that and don't create another tutorial, when I go back to it, it's like I've totally forgotten everything. But if I have my notes there, I can say, okay, start with this, then do this, then do this, and then get me started. And sometimes just having your notes to give you a starting point can really help accelerate to move you forward faster and get you past that point of frustration that often when you start a new project, things can be frustrating because if you're starting out with a blank page, you don't know where to start.
Yeah, sure. Well, so interesting. There's a number of interesting aspects to this. One of which is that this might be the first vibe-coded wiki farm, if that's quite the term. If I understand it correctly, you basically used AI to set up the whole thing, run any custom code that you have that powers this this whole wiki farm.
Yeah, so the way I set it up was on my laptop, I have Cursor, and that connects to all the files stored locally. That's in a Git repository. And then each time I push a commit, it runs an action on the server that runs, or it runs an action within GitHub that runs a script on the AWS EC2 that pulls down the code, and then it does some file copies. So like the local settings .php file, I have that locally, and then in the script that runs on the server, it copies that to the place it needs to go. And then also like a vhost.conf file for Apache virtual hosts, so that it does the same thing. So it's adding a virtual host each time a new wiki is created, and so even files that aren't in the repository and are located in different areas of the file system on the server can still be part of the project in Cursor, so that the AI is aware of it, so that I can say, please make this update, and it will update the local settings.php. It'll update the websites. It can and do some updates to the database, and as well as modifying files like vhost.conf for Apache.
Yeah, it's great that's it all makes sense. It's great that
When 2 years ago, when I was working with the external data extension in order to learn how to use that, I was using ChatGPT, and I think less than half the information that ChatGPT was giving me was correct.
Okay. Yeah.
But today, the AI tools are just so much more powerful. I don't think I would have been able to create this wiki farm even 6 months ago. I think that the AI technology is evolving to the point where it's able to do so much for me that it makes projects that would have just been a dream, now actual viable projects.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, yeah, 6 to 8 months from when I say, maybe even less than that, depending on the type of quality you're looking for. Seems to be when these tools made the jump.
And if people are interested in helping out on this project and they'd like to help with development, I would really love to have other people help out. Please feel free to go to goalstriving.org, set up your own wiki, read through the details that I have there on. So I created a site, wiki.goalstriving.org, that I'm sharing here on the left, where I have a lot of detail about the project, the features that I'd like to add, and then some other details about how I think this can be used, how the nonprofit can be structured. And, one of the initial things I'll need to do, but before I can form the nonprofit, I need to find members of a board of directors. So, I'm interested, anyone interested in being part of the governance of this project. It wouldn't be a big time commitment for anyone. Maybe there'll be an online meeting, once a quarter, and then some information shared about, making decisions, steering the overall direction of the organization, and making decisions about spending money once we finally get donations coming in. But yeah, there's a contact form on the website, and please let me know if you're interested in being on the board of directors. I'm actively looking for people, because as soon as I have at least 2 other people, I can submit the paperwork to form the nonprofit, and then I could start applying for like a Google grant, so that we can get G Suite accounts for no cost. For nonprofits, they'll allow, I think, an unlimited number of accounts to be created. And AWS will give a grant of a couple $1,000s a year to pay for the infrastructure, and that by itself will probably allow several hundred users to be able to join.
Yeah, okay. Well, hopefully more than, wait, several hundred
Maybe
users, you mean
several thousand, maybe even for,
well,
I think for $1,000 a year, it could probably host a couple thousand users.
Okay, yeah, with each user having their own wiki, right, you mean, yeah. Yeah, all right, yeah, there are, among the listeners of this podcast, I think there's quite a few people who could potentially be a good fit for the board of directors, including people who run their own wiki farms. Hopefully there's no conflict of interest there. Probably
Well,
not.
nonprofit, so
Yeah, exactly.
This big a deal.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you mentioned your nephews? Are they already have their own wikis on this platform, or?
Not yet. I just really got it set up just within the past week in order to have it automatically create a new wiki each time someone logs in. So like I mentioned, we're going on vacation starting tomorrow. We'll be in Europe for 2 weeks, and I'll be sharing a lot of information about it with them there.
Yeah, well, that's really neat. It's great that you have this this passion for wikis. It makes perfect sense. I mean, yeah, I confess I myself don't have a good note taking system. I write things across on the backs of envelopes and so forth, like everyone is supposed to some extent, or just I write a lot on my own laptop, which is fine, but if it were to ever crash or get stolen, then that would be a huge problem.
But do you think you would use a wiki as a personal note-taking system?
I should.
I encourage you to try it out.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, that's fair. It's a fair point. I will. I will certainly look. Well, I'll try it out. Yeah, I will. I will create my own subdomain at privately at a private location, private subdomain. Yeah. Uh, do you have well, yeah. I mean, you list all sorts of potential enhancements. A lot of these, I get the sense, have to do with that kind of structure that you were talking about. Uh, Being able uh, to define, for instance, when the word organizations appears there, is that sort of thing. Is that a single data structure, or is it a set of data structures that could be used by organizations?
So my ideas with an organization would be, so everyone has their private wiki, but then a user could create a wiki that wasn't directly associated with an individual. And an organization would be a wiki that it could have one user as the owner, or it could have multiple users as the owner. And so this might be for a club or a team, or a sports team, or any organization. Like my dad is in a tennis group, and he's 75 years old. He still plays tennis 3 times a week. And he's in a group with 6 guys, and they play doubles. And so 4 of them are playing. And so they have a schedule where they get 2 weeks off, and then they get 4 weeks where they're playing. And if he had a wiki, he could organize all that, and he could create an organizational wiki just for that team that could be shared among all the members of that team. And then, if he left and joined a different team, then they would still have that. So that wouldn't be associated with his personal wiki. It would be independent. And then I was thinking about having a wiki, a group wiki called a project, whereas an organization would probably last indefinitely. A project wiki would be similar to an organization, but it would have a finite end, such as a university course. If a new course starts, the professor could create a project. That project could have students and the professor added to it, and then that would exist for the duration. And then, at the end, each student could export that into their own personal wiki for their own content and the shared content for the course.
Yeah. No, sure. University courses, it makes a lot of sense. And then there was actually someone on this podcast who does that sort of thing. He creates wikis for. He's a professor at one of the SUNY schools who does that for those classes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, internally in my consulting company, WikiWorks, we have a wiki, knowledge base that and it is in fact invaluable for all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's just the tip of the iceberg for all the information that could potentially be stored. Yeah. No, makes perfect sense. Yeah, it's so interesting. Just the all the sub-optimal ways that people and organizations store information, whether it's in Word and Excel documents, or in emails, or written in files, or not written it anywhere at all, and just stored in people's brains, and then when they leave, then it's gone.
Yeah, from my experience working in so many different organizations, their knowledge sharing systems span the gamut. And I would say less than 10% of the organizations I've worked with would I say that they have an effective knowledge sharing system that's used, that's widely used among the organization. And I think it's such a shame. The organizations that I've seen that have that are so much more efficient and can accomplish so much more with fewer resources and have, fewer issues of miscommunications. Um, and then, from the standpoint of the IT department, just, documentation on all the different applications and servers and projects. If that's all stored in an organized way, the organization is going to run smoothly. If they don't have that, um, oftentimes it can be described as chaos, and a lot of things are in emails.
Yeah, sure, sure. Which is not ideal either. Um, yeah. To what extent? I mean, you've mentioned AI. To what extent can you use an LLM or a chatbot to sort of collate all the information you have now? This resource that's all about yourself or your life or whatever. Um, can you have you considered or have you done this of just pointing the LLM to all of the wiki's content, and now it knows a whole lot about you and can answer questions. Um, I guess I mean there's the fitness tracking can sort of get into that. There's tools where if you tell it all the fitness you've done and the meals you've had and so forth, it can try to come up with with recommendations. But more generally, is there the opportunity for that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think with AI, there's a lot of opportunities of how AI could be integrated to it, in order, as an assistant to help create or organize content. But then also, like you described, if you have a robust personal note-taking system, if you think in the future, 5 years from now, maybe not even that much, it stands to reason that each of us will have our own almost personal AI chatbot that we work with that knows a lot about us. Perhaps has information about our health, about what we eat, about our fitness, about what we do for work. And so when you're asking that AI questions, it's able to answer you in a way that's most effective for you. It understands your communication style. It knows your level of knowledge. So it isn't giving you information that you already know, and it isn't explaining things to you in a way that you can't understand. And so the more that you start creating a personal note-taking system, like a life organization system almost, you're really starting to train, what will very likely in the future be very useful for you to help create a personalized AI system.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. No, it makes perfect sense. Um, all right. We've covered a lot. Is there anything else that we missed? Um,
Let's see.
well,
I'll mention a couple other names for the organization that I've
okay. Yeah.
considered.
Yeah.
My knowledge tree. I was really going by looking at domains that are available.
I see. Yeah.
Ever knowledge, a knowledge garden. And then there's even a .wiki extension for a top level domain. So
Sure.
we could use knowledgetree.wiki or gardenofknowledge.wiki. But so many people are more familiar with the .org or .net. Since it'll be a nonprofit, I want to stay away from a .com, and plus those domains are harder to get anyway. So, but on the goalstriving.org website, there's a form you can fill out there where you can put in a first choice, second choice, third choice, or enter your own idea for a name of the organization.
Yeah, they all sound good. Garden of Knowledge seems a little wordy
Yeah.
for a domain, but yeah, there's a lot of options, and the fact that you're considering .wiki certainly opens up more possibilities, I assume. Um, Although goal striving is nice. I mean, it doesn't capture all of the potential uses, but it's a strong goal.
Goal oriented, obviously. Yeah.
It's it's a strong desire, I guess, for people to reach their goals. Um, well, great. This seems like a good place to wrap it up. Again, it's at goalstriving.org, and yeah, people should check it out, create their own wikis. I will. Yeah, thank you very much, Matthew. It was great to talk to. Sorry, yeah, it was great to talk to you. Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you very
I
much.
enjoyed
Yeah,
this conversation, and I look forward to any feedback that the MediaWiki community is able to provide.
very good.
Thanks again.
Thank you.